great, we're recording over there. Hopefully BCAT can see us and hear us, and thank you everybody for being here. I think we have a relatively short meeting today with a couple of updates. First thing we have on the agenda is the approval of minutes, and our planning director Liz is looking for these minutes, so we got to get them approved. And Kate, can you get them up on the website once they're approved?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Abstain, Barbara? Okay. Do you want us to wait till the end and take a vote?
Unless you really need it, no.
Sure? Okay. Thank you. All right, so we're heading into the final month before we go to town meeting. So we do have a lot of activity probably over this next month, a lot of meetings, a lot of opportunities to talk about the project. The first thing I want to update the group about is that we did have a meeting with the abutters of the project on Tuesday. Dr. Suffredini joined us at that one, and we got about 20 people that showed up. There were a bunch of folks from Grandview Commons, a couple folks from Sleeper, and a couple folks from Briarwood. And we got tremendous positive feedback on the station. There were one, I guess, big concern that was raised, and one minor, less of a concern. And almost to a T, all the neighbors requested that we keep as many of the mature trees on the property as we could. They want to save as many of the trees as a buffer zone. They are very happy about the new station. They just don't necessarily want to see it from their backyard. So that was the biggest thing that was expressed to us throughout the meeting. And then there was a secondary, lesser discussion on the entry and egress points. As you recall, there were 2 driveways that go into the project. You know, one of them, and again, the project isn't officially voted on yet, but on the concept where we had a driveway sort of near the library entrance, and then another driveway sort of on the side near where the sculpture park is now. And there was some people just concerned that we just put some thought into that, just with, you know, children walking down the street, the idea of police cruisers, obviously in an emergency, rushing out to get to help somebody. Chief explained to them that, you know, they'll be gated, but it's definitely something we want to put a focus on as we move through the project, is how to keep those areas safe for pedestrians, given the fact that our officers are sometimes, you know, buzzing out of there pretty quickly. Next up, tonight, we'll be going back to the planning board for a vote. There was a little snafu on our advertisement the last time, so we'll be attending tonight's planning board meeting. At our last planning board meeting, we did receive a very favorable 5-2 vote on the project, so we're very hopeful that we can get a 5-2 vote again, but Tom and I will be attending that, and again, anybody's welcome to pop online. All the information for these meetings that I'll be talking about are on the town calendar. You can attend virtually, you can attend it in person, and anybody who shows up, we would appreciate your support if you can make it. The next opportunity on April 23rd, we'll be attending the town's land use committee. I believe that is a completely virtual meeting, if I'm not mistaken, but that will also be listed on the town website, on the town calendar. And then as of now, we are aware that the town clerk is planning some town meeting member information sessions, and I do believe that she is going to have us slotted on May 2nd. That's typically like an open house or an opportunity for us to give a presentation to town meeting members about the project before we get to town meeting. And we'll attend as many of those as she'll allow us to. And the next step after that will be town meeting itself, which is the first session, John, is May 13th. We do not think that we will get to this article on May 13th. We typically get about halfway through the budget on that night. Sometimes we get through the entire town budget. So it's usually we get through the town budget and then we start up on the town capital items. So I will sort of discuss with the moderator beforehand, because we actually have 3 articles related to this. We have the funding article as well as 2 articles related to the same zoning change. So what we will do is we will request that the moderator take all three of those items at once. They're all a 2/3 vote at town meeting, which is a very high bar. And, each one of those will need a 2/3 on. So we'll make the explanation that if you're in favor of the funding, please make sure you're in favor of the zoning changes, because if the funding doesn't pass, there's no need for us to proceed with any zoning changes at that point. So it's all a 2/3 vote. So we'll be talking to the moderator, see if we can get that at a particular time, whether it's at the beginning of the second session or just something at a particular time, so that the town meeting members can be aware that that vote will be occurring at that time.
What are the three articles again, Paul?
Article for the funding, and then there's two articles related to the zoning.
Okay.
One of them which rezones the Sculpture Park property, and then the second one sort of updates the Grandview Farm is actually a planned development district. So when you take that parcel out of there, you basically gotta have to go back and amend that language. It's called Development Area 2 on that map. So one to actually rezone the property, and the second one to make corrections to the PDD for the fact that this land is no longer a part of the PDD. When we were at the planning board, we did commit that we would return to rezone whatever unused portion of the field back to open space. We'd be happy to do that. I know I had spoken to Liz too about, I'm not sure if it's easier for the planning board to condition that during the site plan approval. I'm not sure what the best way to do it is, but we'll be happy to work with the planning board on that to make sure that that remaining area that we don't use, that we want to protect as green space, returns to green space when we've decided that, where their property line is going to fall officially when the project gets fully designed. So those are some of the updates I have. Does anyone have any questions on that? Barbara?
I have two questions. One is, how is the funding going to be presented to town meeting?
The funding will be presented as a request to borrow money. Simple, 2/3 vote, the legal language that to allow the town treasurer to borrow 46 some odd million dollars for the purpose of funding the project.
So it's not tied at this time to the debt exclusion vote?
That's correct.
My other question was more of a request. I wanted to convey something to you to convey to the architect. I don't know if this is the right time.
Sure.
When the architect showed us a rendering of a building that looked very much like the one that's there now, only larger. And I think that's very palatable to the community to try to make it look more like the building that's there, but it also looked like a giant block. And I wanted to ask if they could design something that keeps the facade that is the same size as what we have now, and then add the wings with a little bit of a depression, I don't know how you'd say that in architecture language, so it's not so flat in the front, and it adds a little visual interest. I'm sure that they can come up with something like that. I'd love to see that at some point in the future.
Tom, you have notes on that?
Yeah, so I've already spoken to Kevin about that. The rendering that you saw is very preliminary. He is aware that he doesn't want like a whitewashed wall to be what you see as you're driving up Center Street. So he's going to add some architectural flair to it, as he calls it, as it gets more into the design.
Okay.
But they just wanted to throw it out to show that we can make it look like the existing building. But they're aware of it. They'll add something to break it up.
Okay, thank you.
Tom, I think what Barbara's suggesting is that maybe before town meeting, if we can get something that's a little bit less blocky.
Yeah, that would be
Is
nice.
that what you're saying? Because this committee will sort of be deciding what that station looks like, so the architectural touches that you're referencing is all stuff that we'll be discussing as Kevin's designing the project, and we'll be putting all that input in at that time. But I think what you're saying is town meeting may want to see something a little bit more elevated at this time.
Yes, I mean, I know they're not voting on the design, but it sometimes helps to have a visual.
Yep, agree, 1,000%. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank
I'll
you.
reach out to him today.
Thanks.
Okay, the next, does anybody have anything new that they want to talk about related to the station?
I have some questions.
Sure.
Have you met with other residents of the town other than abutters?
Town meeting members, Ways and Means Committee.
But I'm talking about just regular residents that aren't involved with the town in any way.
I mean, nothing specific other than talking to residents on a daily basis as we come across them.
I understand in Lexington, when they were building their police station, they met several times with town residents, and a lot of them had ideas, and a lot of changes were made because of their ideas. But you just met with mostly the abutters then?
Yes, to date, yep.
Okay, another question I have is, who made the decision to put the police station on the warrant article for May? Who made that decision?
The administration and the select board.
Okay, well, doesn't this committee have a say about that, since we're the new building police station? I don't remember having any discussion about putting this on a warrant article with this committee.
This committee will help us design the police station.
So we had no say in whether we wanted this to go on a warrant article.
Correct.
Why not?
We're moving forward with this project in May.
Right, but
We've
this
been talking
this
about it for
committee
years.
was developed to give advice.
To design the station,
That just for the design of the station?
yes.
But it had nothing to do with putting the warrant article?
No, sir.
Okay. That's all I have for now.
Thanks, Steve. Pat, we'll do citizens' time at the end.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything they want to talk about? Chief, did you have something that you wanted to show?
John, I believe you have it up. It's the newest rendering that Barbara was referring to. We have like a flyby video graphic that the architect has supplied to us that is going to be on the website after you all have a chance to view it today, so. Again, as any renderings come in that changes the look of this, we'll obviously have Kevin update the website once it goes on.
So before we press play, the idea of this is just to see the building. So try not to notice that there's no fence around the parking lot. Try not to notice that all the trees aren't there and the ones that are there now. So the idea is to train your eye towards the building, and that's what this is meant to be, sort of a that's the chief walking. So what they were trying to accomplish was just to sort of give you a view that isn't just that one static view in front of the building or that big long side of the building, and try to get a almost 360 view of somebody that was flying by.
Can you play that again, John?
Yeah. For some reason, it kept minimizing on my screen, so keep stopping on my screen.
What's that?
All right, so what's everybody's feedback on that? Is that something you think that we should get up on the website? Is it too soon for that, given that we haven't officially designed it? Thoughts, comments?
Well, may I ask the chief a question? I didn't see the other side very well. Do you still have the, and I don't exactly know what you call it, the garage portion where a vehicle can actually pull into the building if you have a prisoner?
So,
Yes, so there will be a two-car garage in the back. They haven't designed the back for the elevation yet, that's in progress, but yes, that will be there.
Thank you.
Kathy or Mike Espejo, both in the virtual meeting, do you have any questions, comments, concerns? I don't see any hands. Yes. Mike, did you want to say something? Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just a quick question about how the funding is going to be presented to town meeting. Continuing on Barbara's question, is it just going to be the police station mentioned, or are we going to mention the whole plan that John Isler presented to us?
No, the warrant article will be very specific to the funding. It will be written in a way that our bond counsel approves in terms of legally correct, and there's some legalese that goes in there that references various chapters of Mass General Law that we use to borrow money. So it'll be written as similar to every other previous building project we had with the updated language required by bond counsel. So there's really no reference to an overall plan within the actual warrant article itself.
So it won't be referenced at all at the town meeting?
Well, there may be a presentation on it, I presume, from Ways and Means, but it would not be a part of the actual physical warrant article.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Mike.
Well, I had a comment. Somebody was asking me about the side of the building that faces Grandview Farm, and it's just, they thought it was extremely kind of plain looking. It was just a comment. I don't know if we can do anything to make it a little more interesting in some way.
I would agree 100%, Mike. Like I say, I think that that's the next step. You know, if we're fortunate enough to get the funding, you know, we'll be sitting down with Kevin from scratch on this facility, and I think that that's when all the members' contributions in terms of what this thing should look like and how we can address issues like that as we go along. But yeah, I think, you know, these are just basic concepts and renderings, so based upon what sort of they feel like we may be looking for. And I think it will be up to this committee to sort of fine tune it to what we actually want at that time. So,
Okay.
point taken.
Great.
Well, Jim?
Just to your question of, do you think we should put this on the website right now? I think we should, because it looks very similar to what's there now, and that way the residents will at least be educated on what to expect. So I think it'd be a good idea, as long as we put a caveat saying, you know,
Not designed yet.
prototype or whatever it may be, a facsimile, but I think it'd be a good idea to put it on.
Thanks, Jim. Barbara?
Just quickly to Mike's question, I can't say for sure because I'm one member, but I'm pretty sure when this comes to planning board, we're going to also put in landscaping there to soften the edge of the parking lot, so it will have a nice, that will also help with the view from Grandview.
Yeah, thank you.
Part of it, Mike, you won't be able to see because there'll be a fence with a gate. So that will, you know, your eye will go to that too, will take away from that massive light pole.
Right, okay.
Anybody have anything further from the committee before we?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Gary.
We had talked about debt exclusion briefly, and then we also talked about free cash. So from what I'm hearing, that's off the table now, a debt exclusion and free cash. We're just going to take this out of the budget and for a 2/3 vote?
That is how the building is proposed to be funded. The voters, under the plan, would be presented with a debt exclusion at the next town election, with an opportunity to take that debt out of Prop 2.5.
And an opportunity to use free cash isn't off the table forever either. You know,
So that,
we're going to be borrowing the money over several years.
so what they can still come back and request a debt exclusion or free cash.
Correct.
So this isn't a final
No.
decision.
No, absolutely not. And the intention is to provide the voters with a debt exclusion question to see if they want to exclude this from the Prop 2.5
Which
calculation.
the debt exclusion would have to be voted on at town meeting, correct?
That would be at the ballot.
But doesn't the town meeting have to vote for whether they want a debt exclusion on the ballot?
The select board puts the debt exclusion question on the ballot.
So town meeting wouldn't be involved in that then?
No, the only thing town meeting could do is they could make a vote contingent upon a debt exclusion. That won't be the original motion. And John, do you want to just elaborate a little bit on free cash? That's been sort of a big topic of discussion.
What is the amount of
So-
free cash right now?
So we certified 32 million in free cash last fall. We used 1.7 million-ish at January town meeting, and the proposal for this May town meeting is to use another 14 million to keep some projects off the debt schedule and to fund our pay-as-you-go capital plan, which would mean we'd carry over a significant amount of free cash into next year, 16.7 million-ish, if everything passes at town meeting. So that's the lowest amount. What?
16?
16.7, yep. So the idea is we continue to fund our pay-as-you-go capital plan. We continue the long strategy of keeping smaller infrastructure-type projects off of the debt schedule, which are both applauded by the rating agencies out there every time we get rated, which we have just been reaffirmed as AAA just this past month by Standard & Poor's. But what it also does, it allows us to keep a significant amount of reserves to protect our bond rating when we do go out and bond for the most expensive project that the town has undertaken. So we want to make sure we have significant amount of reserves. So if we had used 10 million of free cash to do these two projects now, that would be $10 million less in our reserves that we have when we go out to borrow the rest of the money, and could, in theory, affect our bond rating and cost more. So the idea of keeping it until we go out and borrow the money, keeping it for the approval to approve the projects, and then at some point, if we wanted to use $5 million to pay down a ban rather than permanently borrowing it, we still have the ability to do that while also protecting our bond rating. So that's sort of the idea behind it. That's what the larger group has been talking about and planning for as we contemplate these two large projects.
And I would just say, we do anticipate using some free cash to pay cash for some of this project. As John indicated, there's a bunch of projects that we would normally borrow for at the upcoming town meeting that we'll be using free cash for. When we sit down as a finance team and look at this, a debt is a debt is a debt, so we're using free cash to pay a debt that would have been borrowed. To us, it's not particularly important which project it is, it's more just not borrowing the money. So it works the same way for us financially if we were to pay off the road work bond and not borrow that money, as it would if we would apply those funds to the police station. It's all a debt to us, it's all the town's debt. So we don't look at them as individual debts, and there's no particular benefit to paying off one debt or the other. We just look at it as paying down debt with cash. And we've done quite a bit of that over the past several years, and we hope to continue that into the future.
Quick question to follow up on that. What is our debt percentage now, and what will it be 6 months or a year from now after we add all this in?
So we're under the 6%, sort of threshold, but we will be over it with these two projects for sure, and, potentially over the 8%, depending on.
So I think the metric for a AAA rated community is upwards of 8 to 10% of a budget to go towards debt. So we've been significantly low over the years. These projects will probably put us more in line with that if they're approved. But 8 to 10% is considered healthy for a AAA community. And John, we're at, did you say 6?
Yeah,
at
we're under the
right
6
now?
right now, but, with these projects, we're certainly going to be much higher than that.
And there was a time when we were very low, and we couldn't get a AAA because we weren't spending enough.
Yeah, I think at that time, we were at about 4% of our budget was going towards debt. So, you can have too much debt, but, if you don't have enough debt, that's also a sign that you're not investing enough into the infrastructure and the future of the communities. It's a double-edged sword. You don't want to be too high, you don't want to be too low. Any other questions from the members? And then, if not, we can open it up to the residents. All right. All right. Any questions from the residents? Pat, you want to come up?
Paul, can I ask you a question first?
Yes, Mike?
This came up from what you just said about paying off the debt and using free cash to pay off existing debt. Do interest rates play a factor in that at all, where we're having a new note for the police station and rates are higher right now as opposed to paying down older debts maybe at better rates, or is that not playing through? Because these are big numbers.
Without a doubt, we consider the interest rates on the debt. Depending upon when we borrowed the money, there's a different interest rate attached to it. We just did that recently with the ARPA funds. Those were intended to pay off the MWRA project, or the PFAS project, but we ended up getting a 0% loan on that, so there's not a lot of interest in paying off a 0% debt, so we moved that funding and paid off MWRA debt for that project because it had an interest rate attached to it. So the interest rates definitely play into our strategy when it comes to paying off the debt.
Gotcha, thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Mrs. Angelo?
Okay. I guess, first of all, I am in support of the police station. I mean, I have been down there, and the mold and the mildew, for God's sakes, if one of the Board of Health hasn't closed the building, and these people have to work in that. Okay, having said that, you said two words that are red flag to me, 2.5. Are you looking at a 2.5 override?
No, the town does not need an override to fund this project or the Fox Hill School project. I would suggest that the town consider a debt exclusion in order to ensure budgetary flexibility in the future years. But at present, there is no requirement right now. The town can afford these projects within the budget.
Okay, debt exclusion, I would go along with 2.5. I will be picketing up at the center of town with signs once again, and I'm too old to do that, but
I
I will do it
understand.
anyhow. If we go with this project, what's the impact going to be on the tax rate?
John, you had an estimate on that?
Yeah, so the police station is estimated to be about, round numbers, 150,000
Okay,
150
to your tax rate. I mean, I'm sorry, to your tax bill. the average.
per household.
Yep, to the average tax bill. The higher value houses, lower houses.
Goes on the first year, Matt, and then it's built into the base until the debt's paid off, and then it comes off.
Annual.
That's on the debt exclusion.
Yes.
That's, yeah.
And-
It's 150 either way, whether there's a debt
Right.
exclusion or not.
okay, and then what would the impact of the school of Fox Hill, what would that impact be?
Estimates right now around number 200.
So we're looking at a 350 increase in the taxes?
Yep.
Okay.
Over a period of several years, Mrs. Angelo, not all on day one. The projects will be built over a 5-year period, so the tax impact won't all hit in year one. It'll sort of be layered in as the projects are built.
Okay, so it's like you're going to drip the water like one drop at a time, at a time, at a time, and then before you even know it, you got a gallon dumped on you? Is this,
I don't know if I would portray it like that, but I guess the $150 impact for a police station would not affect the taxpayers all in year one. We have to build the project, we have to borrow the money, and it happens over time. So if you think of it as a 3-year project, you know, by the end of 3 years, I think we would expect that $150 to impact the taxpayer in total. But certainly not in year one, year two. It would sort of ramp up to that.
okay. I guess that's all I have for now. Okay, thank you.
Mr. McNiff, you want to come up?
Would I be allowed to hand out a package?
Sure.
Okay. Could you pass it around, just one to each? My name's Jim McNiff. I live at 59 Villagewood Drive. I've been attending all of these meetings except one I missed. What I've handed out is, after reviewing the feasibility study, I'm sorry that Kevin isn't here, but I analyzed the numbers, and I had a bunch of questions. And as far as what the total number is that's being presented of 46 million. I guess my purpose is, I'm looking at this as a perspective of we're all talking about how we're going to pay for it. It's like it's done, and I'm trying to question, is the number that we're being asked to be paid for, is it the right number to begin with? Can it be, let's say, a little bit more efficient in that number built in? So, I gave out all my papers. Yeah, thanks. So what I did was, just to walk you through, I have some analysis, and then I did, I guess, basic questions that I have. No, these are here. I took the report that was given, which is 175 pages. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to go through that feasibility study. It's pretty thorough as to square foot and all that. But I took sections and I pulled out ones that kind of got to my eye as to, well, what are these costs and, the detail of it and explaining them. So I went through and I took all the ones that were called contingency and escalation, which to me is a contingency. And I added them together, and they came out to $8.8 million of the $46 million, totaling out to 19% of the total is contingency. So I went and I backed out, and the next line you'll see is I took out the ones that were only for construction, the contingency, which is basically $7.8 million, and took it on the construction cost that's in the feasibility study on page 123, if you get a chance to get that. That equals 23% of this project is contingency. So looking, using as an example, I guess that maybe the best way to proceed is the next page, because in order to understand it better, whether this is proper or not, and where does it fit into the environment, other towns that have built police departments, I used Lexington as a model. And I took Lexington's budget, and the very last page is an exhibit that's of Lexington's final budget that they had. So when I reference, you can look at that, and that's their page on their website as to what their budget was. And if you look at the last line on their exhibit, it has a contingency of 2 million, I think it's 2.5 million, which works out to a contingency of 10% of their project. So Lexington was at 10% of it as a contingency fee. We're running in the range of 19 to 23, let's say it's 20% of the contingency. So I was surprised as to the difference. That's a big number. And I started working backwards to try to see where I could get, why is there a variance between us and Lexington? Is it size? Is it the cost of material? What was it that causes the differences? And as I have here, if you read, I guess the best thing to do is to read the next paragraph that's on the second page. I took Lexington, I said if Burlington were at Lexington's contingency or cost, it'd be at 4.6 million, not 8.8 million. And I took the difference, which is $4 million in the contingency between the two towns. And I said, to explain what caused the $4 million. And I went through and I did it two different ways to try to prove it. One was Lexington was going to do a firing range. They had one, but they didn't do it. The residents made the suggestion or influenced the board to not do a firing range. And as it has on the bottom, I wrote a little note as to what a firing range, the frequency of use of a firing range. And this was done by the International Association of Chiefs of Police. How many, in the training of a firing range. It's come to my attention, such as in Billerica, they have a firing range on the outside. It comes, Bedford has a firing range on the outside. In the building that's in the feasibility study, it's $3 million to build a firing range in that building. And one of the features is putting air filtration on the top of the building. If you go by the life science buildings that are around here, you'll see those long vents that are on top of their buildings to make it 100% purified. This police building will need that particular type of venting by having an internal range, which costs, according to what's on the detail in the feasibility, $610,000 just to put that onto the roof of the police station. So if you add that to the square foot and the cost, or the items I listed anyhow, as part of the firing range, I came up to close to $3 million to put in the firing range. So I said that must be part of the difference, because Lexington didn't do it. They found other means of training their staff. Then I went down to, continuing down there, I went and, well, I say, I guess that was part of it. And then I went to well, I'll take them one as I go further along.
Excuse me, Jim?
Yeah, sorry.
Can we get maybe 2 more minutes?
Okay,
I think the next meeting when our architect would here would be a better time to talk about this.
Yeah, I was hoping that he'd be here
Yeah, 2
because
more
I know
minutes
it's...
and then
Okay.
we can,
Yeah, I could share it electronically. It's not, so maybe what you could flip to is the next to last, let's see, page 4, which is another comparison to Lexington, because I think it is my benchmark that I'm using throughout the study. I compared, I actually went to the police directory on both, that are currently on both sites, and I took the number of people. You'll see it's listed. And Burlington has, in the police department, 73 people on their police directory, and Lexington has 62. So I created a factor and said, okay, what is that factor that we're above them? And then I took that times the budgets. And I said, what would Lexington look like if it were Burlington? And it came out to $38 million, and we're at 45. And the difference happens to be around $7 or $8 million between us and Lexington if you try to make everything equal. And so that kind of was getting to the understanding that I believe that with the reduction in the firing range, I also believe the fitness center is not necessary. It's $1 million to do a fitness center. I think it'd be worth to look at other options, like maybe even pay their benefits to go to Life Fitness or something like that, rather than paying $1 million for a fitness center. And the rest was in the contingency, which I would have questions for Kevin, because I don't understand the difference of 10 and 20% in contingencies.
thank you, Jim.
Okay.
We'll have Kevin back at the next meeting. All I can tell you is when the town approves a number, it's a not-to-exceed number, so all we can spend this money is on a police station. So if we were to come in 8.8 million less, I think we would be very pleased.
Well,
It's a
can
little bit premature on that.
I respond to that? Because I've researched, I don't know how many police stations and how many news reports. I've not found one that said they overbonded and they have money left over from that bonding or saved money after the fact, after it was approved. So that's all I would say.
Oh, that's fair. Like I say, I would just add that we are not construction experts. The firm we hired is a well-known firm for doing this kind of work within Massachusetts. So every building that we've built in this town, we've relied on experts to do, and I think we need to continue to do that.
Paul, I like the data that you've calculated here. The only thing that I don't see that you've accounted for is the fact that Lexington was built several years earlier. So the building cost between that facility and this one is going to be dramatically impacted by, escalation in cost.
Am I allowed to respond to that?
All right, one response, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Actually, I have proof that that is not necessarily the case.
It's on the second to last page.
They landed up being put in the tender. If anything, I got articles that show that they were at the highest cost that any police station was. They delayed it so long, they got right into the heavy part of the wave. We're coming down on the other side of it. So that analogy, I could show you the back.
Thank you. Let me get to the residents first, Gary.
Right.
Anyone else? Matt, I know you said you had some questions.
I was regarding the firing range, though. Just a quick question.
Pardon me?
I was regarding the firing range. I'll just ask a quick question about that.
Yeah, we'll just get him first.
Thank you. In the video of the new police
Can you
station.
Identify yourself so the people watching know who you are.
Oh, yeah, I'm Matt Frost, a former town meeting member, and I've been a resident of Burlington for over 30 years. The video on the new police station, it looked like it was on the same site as the existing station, is that right?
Right.
Okay, so the existing station would have to be torn down?
Right.
And how long does that take before the grounds are ready for new construction?
I think the design, Kevin will be able to answer it, but the design takes about 10 months. And
Okay.
probably during that 10 months, the demolition will take place.
Okay. You know, when we were talking about the feasibility study, probably 6 months or more ago, I was under the impression we were going to get a comparison of estimated cost to repair the existing station, so we could compare that to the cost of new construction. Was I mistaken there?
We have that, Matt, and we can get you that report.
The estimated cost to repair the existing station's deficiencies?
Yes.
What is that cost right now, that estimated cost in total?
I'm not sure what it is.
Significantly more.
Yeah.
More than building a new station?
Yes, sir.
Huh, why would that be?
The major factor is seismic. So the code has changed since in the past 10 years.
So if you're just going to do a repair, you have to upgrade codes everywhere?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're going to value 25% or higher, or maybe it's 30%.
Okay. Now, Burlington has its own building department, and have they had any input or given any estimates or the feasibility of having a program of repairing the existing station?
Matt, all I can tell you is that in the time that I've worked for the town, what I've been told about the building is the town doesn't want to invest any significant money into it because it needs to come down.
No, that wasn't my question. My question is having to do with our building department. Burlington has a building
The
department.
inspectors you're referring to.
Well, it's called the building department, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So wouldn't it make sense to have them involved in this process as well, in terms of estimating repair costs and costs of new construction?
No, that's not what they do.
Well, I know they do inspections, but don't they have other responsibilities in addition?
Not estimating costs on projects.
Okay, all right, thank you. Referring to what Jim raised, this subject Jim raised regarding the indoor firing range, and Bill Ricca in Bedford they have firing ranges, and Bill Ricca actually, it's on a private piece of property, and they lease that out to the Bill Ricca Police Department. And I don't know if Bedford would be inclined to share their range for a fee or whatever, but has that been explored by the town to share other existing ranges?
I think that that's occurred in the past for different types of trainings. I think what we have found is that it's more economical to have your own. When you have to send officers out to another community to arrange, it's typically done off shift. Chief, can you talk about some of those
Right,
costs?
and then there are additional insurance costs, but also to Mr. McNiff's point here about the IACP and the recommendation of 3 times a year, we don't just shoot the pistol downstairs. We also train on the taser. We're also rifle rated down in the range right now. And we have a program within the town that at any point in time, a supervisor could bring an officer downstairs and practice on the pistol or the rifle. So this is an ongoing training. And what I like to say is this is why we have the best trained police department, is because that range is available to us not just 2 to 3 times a year. We use it consistently.
Okay. All right, so I guess the short answer is no. No attempt was made to contact other police facilities to see if they could be shared. Like Bedford's is just up the street, probably within a 10-minute drive or less, 5-minute drive. Their facilities there, they fire all kinds of firearms there. And it seems to me that for a fee, that'd be a lot more economical than spending $3 million on a new indoor firing range. Other things to consider with an indoor range, of course, with the aeration system, is the filtration, and those filters, they have to be continuously replaced because they filter out toxins, lead, mercury, et cetera, and that's going to be expensive as an ongoing cost for operating that indoor firing range. Do you currently have filters on the existing indoor range?
I'm not sure about the mechanicals. I know there is a filtration system in the range.
Okay, and does anybody have an idea what the costs are of replacing those filters? It's hazardous waste, and there's an additional fee for doing that, so that's an ongoing addition to the department's operating costs, and that should be factored in, and I don't think it's been given any thought, or has it? I don't know. Has it been given any thought?
Matt, I guess I would just respond as, we're not looking to take a step backwards with a new police station. We've already had a firing range within there that we've been training on for many years.
I understand that, but you haven't built the new firing range yet, and there are other options that really should be explored, and I don't think any thought has been given to those.
All right, Matt?
One other thing, regarding a couple minutes. Regarding a fitness center, the new fire station has a fitness center in it. Is it possible that that could be shared between the police department and the fire department? Gary and I actually visited that less than a year and a half ago, right, Gary?
Right.
So I think that's a good alternative to the fitness center. It would save costs. We already have a fitness center, and it wasn't being used at all, that I could tell. The Lexington station, somebody said it was built a few years ago. I think it's still under construction, possibly due to the delay. You mentioned, Jim, that there was a delay, so I think it hasn't been completed yet. Okay, that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Regarding the fire range, it was my understanding that the current fire range can be moved into the new building. Is that still correct?
That's correct.
So that wouldn't be when Mr. McNiff is talking $3 million, are you talking a whole new fire range?
Yeah, it's based on
Yeah, but that's a completely new fire range. But if we can take the current one and move it into the new building, I think the cost would be a lot less than $3 million. Am I correct?
What I can tell you is the range that we have right now, the components are portable. They will move into the new police station. But as far as the budget and the feasibility, what the architects have put forward, I don't know how they came up to those numbers, but the full-range firing range will come with us.
$3 million is for a new police station. I don't think it's going to cost like that to just move the existing fire range over. So.
Thank you. Barbara?
Just to offer a counterpoint of view, as a resident who knows nothing about guns, I take comfort in knowing that our police station is exceptionally well-trained, because I can't defend myself, and neither can the kids at the high school or any of the other schools we have in town, or a mall, or any of our other businesses. I don't want to see the town take a step back and have our police give up something with the new police station. I want them to continue to be one of the best trained police forces in our state. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. I have to admit, that is what defines the Burlington Police Department, is the emphasis on training. So it's made them one of the premier departments in the state, and we want to keep them that way. So appreciate all the comments on the range, though. Are there any other residents? Roger?
Hi, Roger Riggs, 4 Briarwood Lane. Just a couple of points. I wanted to thank for the presentation yesterday about the zoning change and the discussion with the chief and Paul. That was great to hear. Just reinforce the point that was made about maintaining the trees on the property. It's the using that as a dividing between Grandview Commons and the other residents. I know there's at least one resident that if you took down all the trees there, they would be completely exposed to the common, so I appreciate that. In terms of communication, I think if the site plan actually showed the trees that could be retained, that would help. The current site plan looks like the lot's cleared, and that will raise the ire. So just in terms of communication for town meeting, having it be very clear about what the intent is would be great. Later, I'll probably have concerns about lighting and fencing and other appearance things, but it sounds like that's a little bit early. I appreciate the fact that the budget for the feasibility study is kind of small, so we can't really delve into all the details that we'd like. That leaves me a little bit uncomfortable, but there's a lot of people involved in the process, so I think the result's going to be okay. Anyway, keep the good work coming. Thanks.
Thanks, Roger.
Thank you.
Mike?
Just another comment on, I think it's a good idea to look at all the numbers and see if we can save money in any way, as people have stated. Similar to Barbara, I feel for like fitness center and so forth, that's important for the police to be able to obviously stay fit, stay in shape, stay strong. If we want to make that available to our officers, because if you don't, then you deal with things like injuries, overtime, other things. So there are hidden costs to not having your force in kind of great shape. So just something to think about.
Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Sagarino. Just to follow up to the issue on training, regarding training. First, for many years as being on the officer side of things and now being on the instructor side of things, it's so comforting when you're in a training, in plain clothes, and the instructor or people in the classroom just say, we just do what Burlington does. Burlington knows what they're doing, we just do what Burlington does. And I've heard that numerous times, which is a testament to how we train and how well we are trained. So I have heard that out there, and trust me, train and teaching the recruits now, they all say they want to go to Burlington because of the training. That we heard Burlington is one of the best trained departments. Yeah, they are. And that's why we make headlines for all the right reasons and not for the wrong reasons.
Thank you, Jim. And I appreciate what Mike said. I think if we're fortunate enough to get the funding, the role of this committee, we're going to be presented with a lot of different options and related costs as we move through the project and design the project. And there'll be a lot of decisions we need to make in regards to, different paths to take in terms of the building. Any more residents would like to speak? Thank you. Anything else, Bob?
One thought. The taxpayers and the citizens of town should be very comfortable with the administration, and we've got a lot of experience in building stuff. This isn't our first rodeo, as that saying goes. We've built a lot of buildings and a lot of structures, many on time, many at or below cost. So the administration knows what it's doing. I'm proud to sit here to give advice and ask questions, but I'm confident in the decisions that the administration makes on this and all other buildings coming down the pipe at some point. And we are talking about a 50-year building, so we want to make sure we do it right, so that building is there providing the services that may come along, even as the process changes for the job description inside.
All right, so we're just about reaching an hour here, so I'd like to get everybody out of here so you can get back to work. Any final thoughts, questions, comments? All right, thank you everybody for coming.